So one of the really great things about moving to southern Utah was the fact that it put us about 25 miles from the entrance to Zion National Park, which is just one of the most beautiful areas in the country, and a lot would consider it even one of the most beautiful in the world. And just the drive out to Zion National Park from Hurricane along Route 9 is just stunning. You've got mesas, you've got bluffs and views and mountaintops, and the skies just open up and they just look so huge along the way. But once you reach Springdale and make your way into the park, it opens up a whole new world. So on Sunday, or in early January, we took a drive out to Zion, and for being January, temperatures were pretty reasonable. You know, they were in the mid to upper 40s to lower 50s, and there was quite a few people at the park, surprisingly. There was a pretty good crowd of hikers and drivers taking in the scenery coming through the park. And it was really a beautiful day to come out and enjoy the park. So the town of Springdale, as you come in, is full of great little restaurants and shops. We've eaten at a couple of places there and always had really good food and friendly service. And then you make your way into the park, and you've got a couple of choices here. As we come up to the intersection here, we can continue on Route 9, which turns into Route 89 at that point, headed over towards Bryce Canyon, or you can turn left and come up through Zion Canyon. Now, Zion Canyon's about 6 miles long. The park itself is about 230 square miles, and it ranges in elevation from about 3,000 foot all the way up to 8,000 foot up at the peak, the top of the mountains. And later on, when we go up over Route 89, we'll kind of go up through, up to the top of the mountain and level out onto one of the plateaus and exit the park on the southeast side. And it's just stunning. The drive up there is just full of switchbacks and formations that are just amazing. But as you enter the canyon here, it kind of starts out fairly wide, follows the Virgin River all the way up to the end of the canyon, and the peaks and the cliffs on the sides, they just get taller and more majestic as you go. By the time you get all the way deep into the canyon, some of the canyon walls are going to rise about 2,600 feet into the air, so almost a half a mile into the air that you're looking up at, and it is just stunning. The striations and the rock formations are it shows you about 150 million years of geology for the park in this area, and it's just, again, amazing. And what really, my wife, every time we drive up the canyon, she just can't get over how you drive one way and the light's hitting the rock formations and the side of the canyon in a particular direction. Then when you drive back, it's hitting it in a different way, and it just changes the whole look and feel of the canyon. Now, being early January, we're allowed to drive up the canyon. Normally, during the busy season, if you come visit Zion during the summer months, in kind of the peak of the season, you're going to have to take the tram. You're not allowed to drive up the canyon because the amount of traffic is just insane. It really is very, very busy. But they've got a great tram service. They've got 9 stops along the way as you work your way up the canyon here. You've got, and along the way, you've got all different kinds of things to see. From, they've got a really great museum. Along the way, at each one of the stops, there's trailheads that you can go hike off into the park. And they've got probably 15 or 20 different trails that range from very easy, and some are very short, to ones that are 15, 20, 30 miles long and take you into the backcountry of Zion. So there's a little bit of something for everybody. But as you can see, as we continue to move down the canyon here, the rock formations, the colors start to change. It gets richer. You see a lot more variations in the rock, and they're getting taller. It's just, the video just doesn't do it justice. It's something you really need to come and see in person, because if you don't, you just don't get the same effect here from the video. So, as I was saying, we've got 9 different tram stops along the way, and the trams come very regularly. So if you come during the peak season, you don't have to wait a terrible long time to catch a tram to make your way up Zion Canyon. And do your research ahead of time, because there's so much to see here. As you work up through the Court of the Patriarchs up to Zion Lodge, which would be just a fantastic place to stay. It's surrounded by these great rock walls, and it's just amazing to see it. And then you've got the Grotto, Weeping Rock, which every time we've come, the trail to Weeping Rock has been closed, so we haven't been able to get up there and see that one yet. But that's definitely on our list to try to do. Hopefully that trail will be open this summer, and we'll get an opportunity to go up and do that. So, you come up past Weeping Rock, you make your way through the Big Bend, and it brings you out here. Coming up shortly in the video, you're coming right here into the Temple of Sinawawa. The Temple of Sinawawa. Got to get that pronunciation correct. And this is kind of the end of the canyon, but this is really the gem of this drive and of this part of Zion National Park, because here you can get on the Riverside Walk, which to do the whole trail, they say takes about an hour and a half. It's about 2.2 miles long to go out and back, but it leads you to the Narrows, and the Narrows is probably one of the most photographed and most experienced things in the whole park. The Virgin River comes up through the park here, right down through the middle of the canyon. And as you make your way up through the park, you can hike the Virgin River for about 14 miles up to the end where there's a waterfall. And there's several waterfalls along the way that you can climb up, but the slot canyons are just amazing. So as you're hiking the trail, which is right in the river, you're going to hike right up the river, and families do this. I've seen people of all ages. It's not really a hard trail to do, to hike up through the river, because most of the time the water is only a few inches to a foot and a half deep. But being a canyon, if there's any rain in the area, you can get some flash flooding. So that's something that they're very careful and cautious about in the park, and making sure when weather's coming in, you got to watch for trail closures, especially in the Narrows, because you can get a flash flood and that water can go from 12 or 14, 16 inches deep to 3, 4, 5 foot of fast moving water in just a matter of 15, 20 minutes, as all the water comes off the cliffs and down into the canyon, and it's just a big funnel. So it's really one of those things, if you're going to visit the park, that is probably one of the main things to do, and it's probably one of the most visited things to do in the park, simply because the experience of hiking through the river up the slot canyons is just fantastic. So we made it down through the end of the canyon. Now we're making our way back, and as you can see, the rock formations that we drove by going one direction now look totally different. You're seeing it from a different view, different sunlight. The angle that the light's coming in on the rocks is just totally different, and it gives you a brand new view, like something you've never seen before, even though you just went by it on your way up the canyon. So as we come down here to the end of the canyon, we're going to get past Weeping Rock and go past the lodge. We decided to take a little side trip because we hadn't been up over Route 89 through that part of the park yet towards Bryce Canyon. So, we decided to take that trip because we had a couple hours left of daylight, on that Sunday afternoon. And I gotta tell you, it was just absolutely spectacular. The road kind of winds up the side of the mountain. A lot of switchbacks, 10, 15 mile an hour corners. Relatively wide. It's not particularly narrow. So, here we are kind of starting up the switchbacks. And again, the scenery just kind of changes everywhere you go. And as you wind your way up the switchbacks up to the top, there is the Zion Tunnel. And the Zion Tunnel is about a mile long, going through the mountain itself. And then after you get out of the Zion Tunnel, there's a shorter tunnel a little bit farther up the road that's probably only a quarter mile long. But again, the views as you go up are just absolutely spectacular. As we went up, we found a waterfall that had frozen. Down in the valley, it was 45, 50 degrees. By the time you got up on top on this particular day, it was down into the low to mid 30s and still snow up in the pines.
You want to leave this place where we grew up, this old town, just put it all behind. Remember you and I would always find somewhere to hide when we were kids, so we could see and hear the water run. The river's gonna cry when you're gone. You miss the ones you know. I'll be here, hanging on, waiting for your call. Seems like time as a wave passing by, leave a mark in our minds that turn to memories. The river's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone.
As you continue to climb up the switchbacks here, headed for the Zion Tunnel. The tunnel was built back in the 1920s, and so it's fairly narrow. It's not a big tunnel or a modern-sized tunnel that you would have, like coming across Interstate 70 through Colorado, or some of the tunnels in the Smokies. So if you have a larger vehicle, some vehicles you need to check the size of your vehicle before you go through. If you're trying to come through in a camper or a bus or a larger, mid-sized to larger RV, you have to get traffic control at the tunnel. So that way you're the only vehicle in the tunnel. And I believe the height restriction's about 11 foot 10 inches maybe. Somewhere right in there, but you can get all the details at the ranger station or at the gate coming into Zion or on the website, because it is somewhat small. We met some cars coming through the tunnel and driving a big pickup truck. It was a little tight, but it's kind of funny because they have some openings in the tunnel that open up and show you the valley. But you're driving, you can't stop. There's no place to pull over and go look at the views. So you only get to see them for, just a split second before it's gone. And some of the views just look spectacular. We tried to slow down when we came back down through on the downward side to see if we couldn't catch a little bit more of the view, but we had cars behind us, so we really couldn't stop and take in the views, but they were really, really beautiful. So just one of the things to look for as you're going through the tunnel is some of the views through these portals that they've got made in the side of the tunnel that you can kind of look out into the valley. It was really neat.
Some kind of shimmer in your presence, unlike no other I had met. You got me spinning out of context, not really sure what I should do. This is the reason I am leaving. I can't live with or without you. Oh, won't you sing to me? There ain't no other way but just sing to me, as simple as I say. No need to overanalyze it. We grew apart more every day. When times get rough, I try to tell you we need to fight in every way. No hugs, no kisses could protect us from what the future had in store. Love is a flicker in the distance. Oh, you try to grab it and it's gone. Won't you sing to me? There ain't no other way but just sing to me, simple as I say. Won't you sing to me? There ain't no other way but just.
So now we're coming up on the tunnel, getting ready to go through this mile-long tunnel, which is really a neat experience. And the history of this park goes back about 1809, I believe, was when President Taft first made it a national monument to protect the canyon. But it had a very unusual name at the time, and I'm not really even sure I can pronounce this thing. Mukuntuweap National Monument was what it was first called. Now here comes one of those portals where you can kind of look out into the canyon, and they've got a little sidewalk there, but there's no place to park. There's no place to stop, and you can't walk in the tunnel or ride a bike through the tunnel. So I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do as far as getting out of your car. Maybe if you have no traffic, you can jump out and take a quick look. But they've got a couple of these with sidewalks, kind of overlook areas, and there's really no way to get to them. But in 1909, President William Taft named it a national monument, and then in 1918, it got its new name of Zion National Monument. A little bit of the history there. They wanted people to visit, and they felt that the ethnic name would kind of deter people and not make them want to visit the area. And Zion seemed to be a little bit more of an acceptable name, and it wasn't really, didn't go along with the Indian names or the Spanish names for the area. And so they thought that would increase visitors to the park. So In 1919, it was redesignated as the Zion National Park instead of the Zion National Monument, and that was signed by Woodrow Wilson. And they also expanded the park at that time, brought in more area, put under protection. And as I mentioned earlier, the geology of the area is really kind of amazing, because there's 150 million years worth of rock sedimentation, mostly Mesozoic era sedimentation. At that time, this particular area was relatively flat and low, and it was covered by shallow seas and streams and ponds and lakes with vast deserts. And then the uplift that created the Colorado Plateau lifted the region 10,000 feet, starting about 13 million years ago. So this is really, from a perspective of the history of the Earth, just a really cool area. Once you get through the tunnels, you kind of start to get up above the tree line. You start to see trees get a little bit more sparse, although what really amazes me is if you look at some of the rock formations, you'll see that one lone tree that has managed to find a way to grow when you get above the snow line here. So as we come out of the park here on the southeast corner, you're kind of on a big plateau, and it's just pine forests as far as you can see. We traveled about, 12, 15 miles down the road, looking to see if there was a way to kind of circle back to Hurricane from down here. But in order to do that, you had to go all the way down into Arizona and kind of loop around. So we ended up turning around and going back down through the switchbacks, which really worked out well, because you see, coming up here in the video later on, we've got some special visitors that kind of caused a little traffic jam on the way down the mountain before we got to the tunnels. It was really a neat experience. So this is the smaller tunnel. Again, it's a few hundred yards long, a little bit higher elevation than the main Zion tunnel. And as we come out of this tunnel, on our way up, we had noticed a waterfall that was frozen, and it was just spectacular, because the frozen section of the waterfall probably extended for, I don't know, 70, 80 feet, maybe 100 foot. And then as we came down, we had a herd of sheep that were playing on the rocks and crossing the road. It was starting to get towards twilight. You couldn't see them on the other side of the truck. The wife was filming those on her camera, her camera phone, and we sat there for a good 5 or 10 minutes waiting for the sheep to get out of the way, because they were not in any kind of a hurry to get out of the way. And then as we make our way down here on these switchbacks, these are the same ones we came up, just in 45 minutes or an hour before. And as you can see now, with the sun starting to set, starting to get kind of the twilight hours, and coming at these formations from a different direction and a different angle, again, they just look totally different, and gives you another unique experience as you come through the switchbacks and come down off the mountain back towards Zion Canyon in the entrance of the park.
Used to dance our way to church on Sundays. Mama set the pace. Daydreamer, kitten and maid. Take me back, all the way back to them days. Running around in a gown and a crown, barefoot. could. Walk me in the morning sun. Tell me
You know, one of the great things about this area here in southern Utah, it's kind of the epicenter for national parks. You've got some of the most beautiful national parks with, Zion, 2 hours south, you've got the Grand Canyon, you've got Arches National Park, Bryce Canyon, and then there are a tremendous number of state parks, which the state parks, if they were in any other state, they would probably be national parks. They're just that spectacular. They're not usually quite as big as the national parks are, but the views, the scenery, the geology, the stuff to explore, hike, camp, fish, a lot of reservoirs at these state parks. They make great campgrounds. They've just got fantastic campgrounds. Zion's got a great campground as well if you want to camp there. But see, since you are in such close proximity to many different national parks, highly recommend that you go ahead and pick up the National Parks Pass. Getting into Zion for the day for a carload of people is about $35, I do believe. And you can pick up the National Park Pass, will get you into any national park in the country as many times as you want for the year for $80. So if you visit Zion and you visit the Grand Canyon and maybe one other park on your trip, you've paid for your park pass. So and you're actually money ahead, because the Grand Canyon's $35, and then like Bryce and Arches are right in that $30-$35 range as well. So if you pay the entry fees, you're going to pay $105 to go to all three, and you can get the park pass for $80, and it's really a great deal. And again, the same thing for Utah and their state parks. I believe their park pass is $65 or $70, and they've got 14 or 15 different state parks that you can get in all throughout the state, from all the way up north by Salt Lake, all the way down to the Arizona border. And there's some, like I said, there's some really fantastic ones. There's 2 or 3 right near Zion and near Hurricane, as you're going to drive right by Sand Hollow and Quail Creek on your way out to Zion National Park. So really well worth the money to pick up the National Park Pass and the State Park Pass. You can visit the websites and get the information on that. So now we've come down off the mountain. We're headed back towards home. Time to get some supper. And I hope you guys enjoyed this little drive through Zion National Park. And if you ever get a chance to do it yourself, highly recommend it. It is worth the time to make the trip out here and just see the beauty that nature has to offer in southern Utah.